Starting your private practice can take courage. I know because I've done it from zero. Starting your private practice doesn't have to take a lot of time to get off the ground, and you definitely don't need to pay any money to get started. But to get to the next level, investing in yourself is huge. So sure, you can get started with $0 and get your first few clients. But if you want to learn systems and processes and really develop a strong entrepreneurial mindset, investing in yourself is key. Today, I want to share with you how I started my private practice with $0 so you can do it too. I'm Libby Rothschild, registered dietitian and founder of Dietitian Boss, where we help dietitians and nutritionists start and grow their private practice, quit their clinical job, and create 6 and 7 figures a year. If you find this video helpful, like and comment below and let me know what part stands out. I started my private practice with $0, no money, but to get to the next level, I've invested well over $100,000 in my own professional education and the professional education of my staff at this point, because investing in yourself is hugely important. I joined groups and peer organizations to help me strengthen my mindset, and I directly attribute my success to my ability to invest in myself. For those of you that don't know my story, I worked in a dungeon of a clinical office with no window. I was not respected. Staff didn't know I existed. I'm pretty sure they thought I was the wait staff. I didn't feel my position was important, and I was paid $55,000 a year living in Manhattan, New York. It was not a good scene for me. Coming out of my master's degree, I expected more, but I was so insecure and I had been fed these lies from school that I needed to serve 2 years of clinical. And so I followed, and I'm embarrassed to say that, but I followed what I was told because I thought I wouldn't be taken seriously. And I didn't have enough confidence to think that I could start my private practice sooner. It's hard to look back and think I wasted so many years in clinical when I could have gone full out in my practice. But what's exciting about my story is that everything I learned and I've been through, so many other dietitians have as well. And I only learned that by using social media and creating a business account and talking with other dietitians and colleagues from around the world, learning that they too have the same problem. And that's what motivated me to help inspire other dietitians through my journey and then be able to support them to create their own business, much like what I had wanted. And so I actually ended up creating a ton of additional revenue streams working in clinical because I couldn't make ends meet. I was making $55,000 a year in clinical, and living in Manhattan, I couldn't afford a cocktail, right? And I didn't have familial or spousal support at the time, and I believe in financial independence. And so I knew I needed to do something to make ends meet. I was a personal trainer for 9 years. And so I have that background where I was actually an independent personal trainer. I also worked for Equinox Gym for about 4 or 5 years throughout school, which was great. And so as an independent personal trainer, I would go into gyms and pay a copay, and I would make huge profit margins, meaning if I charged a client $100, $110, something like that, copay was maybe $20, $15, $20, I would get to keep a big bulk of what I charged. And I thought I had, done really well for myself because that was really good money at the time. And so to have a business, and it was a side business because I was in school, there were times when it was full time, but to be a personal trainer and be my own boss in that respect, and then go work as a clinical dietitian, I couldn't believe that I took such a big pay cut. And I did it because I thought I needed to do it. And I told myself that I'll work 15 other odd jobs until I get 2 years of clinical experience. And I didn't need to do all that. I could have just started my business earlier, but I had these confidence issues and these barriers that I know so many of you have as well. So what I did is I first ended up working additional revenue streams. So when I first got into my hospital and accepted the position, I found an opportunity to do overtime. And at the time, I decided to not continue personal training because, again, confidence issues. I thought I needed as much clinical experience as possible so that I could start my private practice. So I had, given up personal training at the time, and I decided to do the 9 to 5. I was actually also consulting for some menu development for a sustainability restaurant company. So I got some jobs doing that as consulting work on the side. And then I was doing overtime at my hospital. I found an opportunity to do overtime, which is not very common. It's called moonlighting. So I worked at My hospital had multiple clinics, and I would go to another clinic and work the evening shift. I actually worked morning shift at one place, evening shift at another. I ended up working at like, a 50-hour work week, right? And then I also worked Saturdays. And then in addition to that, because I was working overtime, and I did this because I was like, I couldn't afford anything with $55,000. Again, I wasn't married, and I don't depend on a spouse to be able to pay for me. I wanted to be financially independent. That's important to me. So I had to figure out a way to make it work. And so when I was working overtime, people had noticed. One of the dentists said to me, hey, we're looking for a nutritionist to speak on a topic about sugar-sweetened beverages. Would you be willing? And I said yes, because I am just so passionate about nutrition. I love nutritional science. I think it's just an amazing topic, and I love giving back to other nutritionists and anybody who's willing to learn about nutrition. And that's especially how I felt at the time. So when I was offered an opportunity, because I happened to show up and work more hours for overtime, I said yes. I went and met the department head of dental, and I pitched that I would be able to teach a curriculum. I'm leaving out some steps. They had mentioned that they had a grant, a HRSA grant, and they were looking for a few nutrition lectures. And so I presented an opportunity to do multiple. I think I had presented like 9. And they were so impressed. The chairman told me he was impressed that I was prepared, and I broke down a curriculum. And he said, you're hired. I got paid, I negotiated up $9,500 to teach that curriculum. Now, I'm pretty sure for the amount of work I put in, I created that from scratch, and I also delivered the curriculum, and it was, I taught all sorts of topics about nutritional science to dentists, and I bridged the gap between oral health and systemic health. In the time that I taught those lectures, I ended up teaching that curriculum and getting paid $9,500 every year. I taught for every academic year for, I think, 4 years. Well, firstly, I was making more money, so I was happy about that. And I put in a lot of time and effort into those lectures. And it was a great experience. But it was the only way I saw possible at the time to make additional money. And that was actually one of the best experiences I had in clinical, was teaching those lectures. And I turned it into an IRB opportunity to get published. Now, I actually ended up leaving and going full-time in my business before I had an opportunity to finish working with a statistician and publishing that. That being said, at the time, I was working at that point 7, maybe 8 revenue streams, because I was also teaching medical students. So I just had a lot of opportunities, and I would show up to clinical early and I would leave late, right? So the morning lecture for dentists, for dentistry, it was an 8 a.m. lecture, and then I would start my shift from 9 to 5, and then I would work evening clinic till 8. So I was basically working really long days for like 3-4 years. And after taxes, I was making 55, you add another 15, 20, but then with taxes, I started to become frustrated because I was happy that I was able to find opportunities, but I had no life. Although I could afford a drink, I didn't have any time to go out. I was always exhausted. And I thought to myself, there has to be another way. So my first step in my business, and again, this was my private practice, right? Because I was working as a consultant, making money. I was also speaking. So I got opportunities. I spoke for the 1199 Union in New York. I talked about nutrition and lung cancer, and I was doing all kinds of random gigs because people were referring me in the community, and I was getting paid thousands of dollars to speak and teach. And that gave me confidence. And so the good part is I got great experience. I had a great relationship, and I have a great experience to share about the dental chairman I worked with. And he really motivated me and inspired me. And I hope I can do that with you, because it was really special at that time working in my clinical office where I felt miserable. And in my direct clinical office, I didn't feel heard. It was really nice to have somebody in the hospital who did believe in me and give me a chance and an opportunity. So there were positive moments in that experience. After working all those jobs, all those hours, and making a little bit more pay, after a while I was disgruntled. And I was chatting with a friend who said to me, why don't you share what you're doing with these cool lectures on social media and tell people what you're up to. And I did. I pushed back a little bit, because I had those same fears that you have, but I did. I actually went on social media like the day after. I used Instagram. My vision of using social was so that I could find other dietitians. And I had looked into communities and found out, what are dietitians doing? I wanted to know who else is teaching nutrition and dental lectures. Who else is teaching medical students about nutrition? At that point, I was also teaching the pediatric students about nutrition. So I was doing a lot. I love working, if you can't tell, and I am passionate about nutrition. So I enjoyed the work. I just, would have preferred to work less hours and get paid more, but who wouldn't? I was determined to find what other dietitians were doing unconventional things and making money without killing themselves and sacrificing their personal life. And I went online to find out that it wasn't very common. And I ended up looking at statistics, and I found from CDR, and I also found from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Salary and Compensation Guide, that the statistics range from 3 to 10%. That's the amount of dietitians that own a business or that operate a private practice. And I'm not sure if that's full or part-time, but that's really low. Now, those same statistics show that up to 60% or more of dietitians go into clinical, which makes a lot of sense, right? We're told to go into clinical, even though we're underpaid, and those jobs are even hard to get. So they're hard to get, they're not particularly enjoyable, at least for me, and you're not really valued or paid well. And you might be if you become like a certified diabetes educator, but you have to do whatever, 1,000 hours and take an exam, and that's exhausting. And then that entire time you're working those 1,000 hours, there's an opportunity cost because you could be using that time to build your private practice. So in my journey, when I was working all those additional jobs and those additional revenues, is really just teaching and speaking overtime, and then my base pay from my clinical salary, that I was motivated by a friend of mine to share my experience. And the second I went on social, it was instantaneous. I went on social media, created a feed, an Instagram feed. I called it Productive Dietitian at the time. I didn't know what I was doing. And I just looked at hashtags for dietitians to create community. And from there, I found dietitians and I just talked all the time. I showed my face, and then I would refeature other people's images at the time because I didn't identify as a photographer and didn't really understand it. So I would give people credit and post pretty smoothie bowls, right? Like a lot of dietitians do. And then I would talk about what I was doing, how I was making money, alternative revenue streams. And the second I talked about what I was doing, I just shared my story, people asked me if I could pay them. And I ended up being an affiliate for a course. My first month on Instagram, I made my first $1,000 just by showing up and by talking about my life. Second month, I got my first few clients. I charged really low. I didn't know what I was doing, but I just got started. And then I hired a business coach for a couple $1,000. And that was just nice to have that motivation. I would have loved a group program. I just didn't even know what existed at that time. This was several years ago. And then I just kept showing up. And then dietitians kept asking me to coach them. And then I got such good results from my clients. One of my first clients is Tallene Halakatorian, PCOS weight loss, who's now on her way to becoming a millionaire. And she was one of my first clients, and she had such fast success. She went from zero to, I believe it was $10,000 or within a few months, and her course made $30,000 or something totally amazing, and really just she blew up. And I helped her niche down, and I've shared her story here on YouTube, also on the podcast several times. And I had a lot of other clients just like her who came to me, and I gave them the confidence to create additional revenue streams by starting their private practice. And I showed them how to leverage social the way I had by showing up and sharing their story, and then creating content, defining their business, and really the basics that I've created into my trademark methodology. I have a 4-part framework now that shows dietitians how to stand out and differentiate, create organic content, create an online program, and then enroll into said program. And the beginning stages of that framework all started from me showing up and talking about myself and what I've done and what I do and what I'm passionate about, and then not being afraid to accept payment from people who are interested. Now, I didn't charge a lot at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I over-delivered and didn't have great boundaries, but I got started, and that's what matters. And so I got a business entity after I had somebody who paid me, right? And then I figured out, I paid for a contract and got everything sorted after people paid me money. So I really learned as I went, and I focused on marketing. And at the time I didn't understand that's what I was doing. Marketing meaning I showed up and said, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I'm interested in. And people connected with that. And I made a salient effort to find dietitians through hashtags and then communities and just talk to them and support them. And some of those same dietitians that I connected with when I first started became clients 6 and 12 months later. And now they've blown up. They're content creators. They're featured in huge publications. They're making multi-6 figures. And I've got at least 2 clients that have become millionaires. And it's amazing to see that progress. And again, looking back at my story, I didn't pay anything. I got my first opportunity, my first payment from just showing up on social media and showing my face. And it sounds overly simplified, but I talked about what I'm passionate about. I identified what that problem was. And even though I started as the productive dietitian, and then I switched to Libby Rothschild, and then I went to Dietitian Boss. So there's been several iterations of my process, just like there have been for many of our clients. And that's part of defining who you are and getting clear with your market. We put in so much effort into the wrong things, and we think that we need to put a ton of money into a website. I didn't even have a website until I made, I think, 10K for 3 consistent months. And I really just focused on showing up consistently, on talking to people, really learning what do dietitians want and need. And I was also interested in it because it's what I wanted and needed too. And remember, I went on social media. My friend told me so I could share what I was doing with teaching because she thought it was cool. But I did it because I wanted to find out who else is out there like me and who else is out there making money. And when I learned that there weren't that many, and I had the ability to inspire people to create some version of what I had done and was doing in my private practice as a consultant and a speaker and a teacher, I was really inspired and motivated, and I loved everything I did, and it's been a really enjoyable process. Not only to see our paying clients grow and thrive, but also to see the community and how dietitians now are inspired. And my hopes and the mission of this company is to disrupt the field of dietetics and create more private practice operators, with the hopes that that statistic from 3 to 10% can go up to 20 or 30% or more. And in doing that, the vision of this company is giving dietitians the tools and skills and confidence that they need to be able to follow a step-by-step roadmap and build their confidence to get started and show their face like I did couple years ago in my clinical office, where I was feeling underused and underpaid, and I learned how to connect with dietitians, simply ask them questions like, what are your goals? What are you frustrated with? What are your concerns? What are your barriers to making more money if that is what you want to do? And that was the number one problem that I saw, is that dietitians wanted to be seen and heard and make money, and they wanted to be visible. So then I started showing them how to do it, how to make money, and how to use social very simply as a free tool, the future of the world, to have access to more people and to really be able to showcase what you do, why you do, and how you do it to get clients. I hope it gave you a good look into what starting a private practice can feel like and what my experience was, right? Back when I was in my clinical office, hustling for additional revenue streams, had the courage to go show my face on social. I had the ability to say yes when people asked me for payment. And then through time, I built up the business to what it is now. We have a staff of 7 from around the world, right? I have a company where we've served over 1,000 dietitians. We broke $1 million in 2020 after just being in business for a couple years. And it's all made possible because I showed up and showed my face. We haven't put a dollar into advertising. We don't double down on SEO. All of our strategies have been from leveraging social media, and that's what we show you how to do too. So keep in mind that you can start your private practice with $0. All you really need is courage. If you like this video, give it a like and comment below and let me know what part stands out. And don't forget to watch this video where I share how you don't need 2 years of clinical experience.